Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're exploring a totally universal human experience that, believe it or not, scales up to a massive, often ignored global crisis. I mean, nearly all of us have dealt with it, right? That sudden twinge of pain after eating something sweet, or, that dreaded trip to the dentist for a filling. But what happens when we stop looking at it as an everyday annoyance and start viewing it as a worldwide phenomenon? So, to really grasp the scale of the issue, we have to look at this absolutely staggering number: 2.5 billion. According to the World Health Organization, 2.5 billion people worldwide suffer from untreated dental caries in their permanent teeth. Caries is just the clinical term for tooth decay or cavities, by the way. But that number makes it literally the single most common non-communicable disease on Earth. Just think about that for a second. Out of all the chronic health conditions we face globally, a simple cavity takes the #1 spot. Crazy, right? Here's our quick roadmap for today. First, the global toothache. Second, anatomy of a cavity. Third, the cost of decay. Fourth, educating the next generation. And finally, global prevention and policy. Let's get into it. Section 1, the global toothache, a massive health burden. Now, what's really wild here is that despite being entirely preventable, oral diseases affect almost half of the entire global population at some point in their lives. We're talking 3.7 billion people, and it definitely doesn't just start in adulthood. Get this, 510 million children have untreated tooth decay in their deciduous or baby teeth. Plus, 1 billion people suffer from severe periodontal, meaning gum disease. So we're looking at a massive burden that literally touches every single generation, from our very first baby teeth all the way to our final years. And when we zoom in on localized severity, the numbers get pretty alarming. For instance, in the WHO European region, nearly 40% of kids under 10 already have primary tooth decay. Actually, in some specific communities, depending on their access to fluoride and basic dental care, that number can skyrocket to as high as 90%. And this early decay, it sets a really dangerous precedent. Why? Because the health of those baby teeth directly impacts a child's nutrition, their speech development, and, of course, the future health of their permanent adult teeth. Section 2, anatomy of a cavity, the microscopic battle. Okay, let's dive into the biology here. It really all comes down to a super simple chain reaction. Bugs plus sugar equals acid, and acid equals decay. The National Institute of Dental and Craniofacial Research actually outlines this perfectly. See, we all have bacteria in our mouths. That's totally normal. But when these bacteria mix with the sugars and starches from our food, they react and create an acid. This acid then launches repeated little attacks on our teeth, slowly stripping away crucial minerals from our tooth enamel. Over time, the enamel gets weaker and weaker, eventually breaking down and creating a permanent hole. And boom, you've got a cavity. Now, to stop that chain reaction, we have to point the finger at the main culprit. The WHO calls them free sugars. And sadly, no, that doesn't mean sugar that's handed out for free. It actually refers to all the sugars added to foods and drinks by manufacturers, cooks, or even us at home. Plus, it includes the sugars naturally present in honey, syrups, and fruit juices. Having a constantly high intake of these free sugars is basically like throwing gasoline on a fire. It just continuously fuels the very bacteria that are trying to destroy our enamel. So, plaque. It's this sticky, nearly invisible film of bacteria that is literally constantly forming on your teeth. If we don't brush away this invisible villain with a simple pea-sized drop of fluoride toothpaste, the bacteria just sit there and feast on those sugars. When we skip brushing and flossing, when we fail to physically disrupt that sticky plaque and fortify our enamel with fluoride, well, the bacteria win the microscopic battle. Moving on to Section 3, the cost of decay, from pain to poverty. Now, take a look at this, $387 billion. This huge number represents the total direct global health expenditure just for treating oral diseases in a single year. $387 billion. That's nearly 5% of all global direct health expenditures. And the really sad part? Despite spending all that money in many low and middle income settings, the vast majority of tooth decay still goes completely untreated. But honestly, the hidden indirect toll might be even worse. We're talking about children missing school, adults missing work, and families facing catastrophic financial ruin, just to stop the pain. Beyond those direct medical costs we just talked about, the WHO estimates an additional $323 billion is lost in global productivity. And think about the human cost. Because of severe pain and infections, people literally can't sleep or eat properly. In fact, in some countries, pulling rotten teeth out under general anesthesia is the absolute leading cause of hospital admissions for children. No way, right? Plus, because dental care is often totally excluded from national health insurance packages, families have to pay out of pocket. That alone pushes up to 12% of households into severe poverty.
Section 4. Educating the Next Generation. Community Solutions. So, how do we fight back? Well, organizations like the California Dental Association use these really fun, relatable visuals, like a smiling cartoon tooth with a toothbrush, to teach preschool and elementary kids that keeping plaque away keeps their smile happy. It's brilliant, really. This isn't about lecturing 5-year-olds on complex biology. It's just about making oral hygiene a fun, highly accessible daily habit.
By bringing tangible resources, stuff like brushing charts and good versus bad habit worksheets, directly into classrooms, we completely empower kids to understand the science of their own smiles. Programs from groups like America's Tooth Fairy encourage kids to track their brushing and flossing and limit sweet snacks. More importantly, it helps them understand the real difference between a healthy choice, like drinking water, and a damaging habit, like sipping on sugary drinks all day long. And finally, Section 5, Global Prevention and Policy, Systemic Solutions. Okay, let's zoom out to the macro level. Because while individual actions, like brushing with fluoride twice a day, flossing, and cutting back on sugary snacks are absolutely vital, the World Health Organization emphasizes that governments really have to step in. We simply can't put the onus entirely on individuals when they're navigating a world filled with what the WHO calls commercial determinants of health. Basically, that means the aggressive marketing and widespread sale of products absolutely loaded with those free sugars we talked about. So what systemic actions are experts pointing to? Well, things like implementing taxes on sugar-sweetened beverages or enforcing super clear front-of-pack nutrition labeling so parents actually know what they're buying for their kids. There's also a big push for restricting how high-sugar foods are marketed directly to children. By combining these with public health fluoride programs, like in water or salt, we tackle the root causes on a massive population scale. But perhaps the real game changer here is integrating oral care into national universal health coverage. That ensures seeing a dentist isn't just some luxury reserved for the wealthy. And this brings us to a really inspiring shift in the global consensus. The Bangkok Declaration basically says it perfectly. We need to elevate oral diseases as a global public health priority, ensuring there is no health without oral health. It's making it crystal clear that our mouths are not somehow separate from our bodies, and dental care absolutely cannot be a luxury. We have to treat the mouth like the vital organ system it truly is. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought. Given the massive human and economic cost of something as simple as a cavity, is it time we fundamentally change how we view a toothache? I mean, it's clearly not just a minor inconvenience anymore. It's literally a window into our global health priorities, our diets, and the very structure of our healthcare systems. So what do you think? Thank you so much for joining me today, and hey, I hope this gives you a little something to chew on the next time you pick up your toothbrush.